I will try and whiz through this quickly. So I don't want to take loads of your time, and you can refer back to it later. Like you say, we'll put a video online as well, and it's an amalgamation of the application guidance and also the FAQs document. So it's basically just to explain to you what the fund's about, who's eligible, what you can spend the money on, and the application process and some of the kind of rules that apply to it. There's the agenda. I don't need to go through it blow by blow because the slides are in that order. So just the background to it, it's funded through this UK Shared Prosperity Fund, which replaced ESF and ERDF, which I'm sure you'll have been aware of. That's the kind of funding strand that's in, which is the voluntary sector funding thing that includes digital inclusion. And the particular kind of strand is this digital connectivity for local community facilities. So the overall purpose of the fund is to support voluntary community, faith, social enterprise sector organisations to either improve public access IT facilities, either open access ones that any member of the public can drop into, or it might be computer facilities for your own particular client group. And it's also about setting up new ones in digitally excluded, deprived areas where there might be little or no kind of digital drop-in facilities. It's not about just improving your own general IT infrastructure, getting computers for staff, and it's not funding kind of delivery of digital skills training or any other sort of activities. It's just about the kit and the connectivity. So we aim to three things really. So either update facilities where the computers might be old and a bit out of date, or there's poor broadband. It can be to increase capacity where there's an existing facility where they haven't got enough computers or the internet's not good enough to meet demand, or set up new ones, like I've said. So we've allocated to date £820,000 over 3 funding rounds out of a total of 1.3 million. So there's nearly 500,000 left in this grant. In this round, there's 129 available for Liverpool. We've got one more round, but we're going to use it as a mop-up. We want to allocate as much as we can in this round because we've got to have the whole project done and dusted by next March, all the money spent, the things set up, and all the monitoring stuff done. So we don't want to leave ourselves kind of late in the day struggling to get the money out.
Hey, Ross.
So there's you can apply for between £2,500 and £10,000. Just to give you an idea of the scale of it, we've dished out 116 grants so far to 106 organisations. 10 of them have applied more than once, different funding rounds. And this next slide just gives you the flavour of the types of organisations that we've funded. The point being that whilst the majority kind of, the largest kind of proportion of type of organisation is like community centres and hubs where everyone and anyone can go to use the computers. We've also funded a real wide range of other organisations that you can see there, advice agencies, training providers, organisations who work with specific disabilities or ethnic groups, some sports organisations like community football clubs, things like that, people who specialise in working with children and young people or women or whatever you can see there. So the point is, it's not just for community centres as such, and there's a real wide range of organisations we've funded. To be eligible, you've got to be a grassroots, not-for-profit organisation with a public access base in the city region. Turnover can't be more than 1.5 million as per your last set of accounts. Need to have been in operation for at least 12 months with a government document, your own bank account, and obviously it's about funding things in the city region. Could someone turn off their microphone, please? In terms of what we define as a voluntary sector organisation, you can see the list there. All the kinds of things you'd expect, you know what I mean? Social enterprises, charities, CIOs, CICs, etc. Um, if you're a company, a community interest company limited by shares, you need to get in touch with us before submitting an application because we would need to check your not-for-profit clause and your asset transfer clause in your government documents. Any queries, obviously, just give us a shout. So we can't fund organisations who basically distribute the profits or dividends to shareholders, directors, whoever it is. Can't fund individuals, statutory bodies, local authorities, etc., housing associations, organisations that are grant-making bodies or political groups, and obviously companies limited by shares, because by definition, they distribute the profits. Just a quick touch on this. There's a tick box in the application form where you need to confirm that you haven't had public funding subsidies over 315 grand in the last 3 financial years. It's a law basically around government subsidies and competition rules and all this. It's highly unlikely to apply to any organisation that applies unless they've had a massive grant for, I don't know, building works or whatever. If you're unsure, basically any funder that's given you a grant, if it is a public subsidy, should have told you that in either your funding agreement or some sort of letter. So if you're unsure and you think you might have, just check those kind of documents. But like I say, it's fairly unlikely. Because it's government funding as well, it's not like, a normal grant making body. Basically, you need to comply with procurement law, which means if you're buying any collection of similar items over £2,500, you need to get 3 quotes, basically. I'm not, a legal procurement sort of expert, so this isn't advice in quotes, but it's, basically if you get 3 quotes, you should be okay. But don't get confused and say, for example, I'm buying 10 laptops and they're £500 each, but they're only £500, so I don't need to get quotes. That would mean you're buying £5,000 worth of laptops, and therefore you do need quotes. So as well as complying with the law, it's common sense, isn't it? If you shop around, you get different quotes, you'll get a better deal, and we'll get better value for money. We always recommend getting some IT, advice from an IT company, an IT professional, because there's quite a lot to setting up computer facilities more than meets the eye. If you're not an expert in that sort of field, there's a lot of other considerations you'll need to take into account and things that you'll need to buy and set up over and above just a bank of computers. If you go through an IT company, then you pay them. There'll be one transaction, if you like, but you would need to get 3 quotes. If you go online and look for online price comparisons, like a lot of people do, you look at Curry's, BC World, AO, whatever it is, you need to make sure you keep the evidence of the prices, because those price comparisons essentially act as a quote as long as you're comparing like for like. So take a screenshot and save them, because it is potentially auditable evidence through the funders or the government basically who fund it. Don't just save the link, because the links expire when things run out of stock or prices change or whatever. So just bear that in mind. So what you can spend the grant on, the fundamental driver about this funding is about improving connectivity, internet connectivity, community organisations. So we can pay for broadband. If there's setup costs, that's fine. Often there's not. And we can pay up to 2 years of the contract costs of your broadband line. We can pay for computers, different types of computers. So think about what you need really to meet the needs of the people who are going to be using them. You might want a mix of different types. If you've got a small room where it's a multi-purpose room, for example, and you can't keep the computers there all the time. You might want to use tablets or laptops. PCs are often better for public use sort of facilities, but it all depends on your space and what they want to use them for. If you're going to use them in a more relaxed sort of setting, you might want some tablets. You really just need to think that through, and that's where you kind of your IT advice comes in really handy as well. And there's a question on the application form that kind of teases that out as to why you're buying what you're buying and is it fit for purpose. We can get the software licenses that you need to make the things work. So the obvious things like Windows, Office, and internet security, which kind of antivirus internet security is a condition of grants because you've got to make sure they're safe and secure. The licenses can be funded for up to 3 years max if you buy them up front. Um, you can't kind of get lifetime ones, but some of them just come with the machines anyway. You can get the equipment you need to go with the computers, like your monitors and mice and keyboards and headsets and whatever. Um, you can also, you need the behind the scenes network and stuff. You might need routers. You might need Wi-Fi access points or boosters, networking, um, all those kinds of things. You can get like security locks to secure the computers to desks if they're going to be fixed. You can get those charging lockers if you're getting laptops. So you can get those kinds of things, but they need to be proportionate to the kind of the scale of the project you're doing and the number of computers you're getting. Mentioning printers, sometimes we get people who've applied for like, oh, we want 3 printers or something. We'll tend to knock that back, and you can get one. And also we kind of look at what is it you're buying. It's not like super high end, most expensive thing you can get. But at the same time, we also consider that you're not just buying real cheap sort of tat computers that are going to, break very quickly or whatever. So, like I say, get some advice. Which comes on to the next one that the funding can pay for those kind of installation and setup costs by an IT company. And it's a condition of grant that someone who knows what they're doing sets the thing up. If you have an in-house IT person, that's great, but it can't pay for internal staff costs, but it can pay for reasonable costs of an IT, support company setting them up. You might need network cabling doing. You could need Wi-Fi sorting out. You need to configure the machines properly, all that kind of stuff. And you can get a reasonable kind of amount of furniture for your IT suite. Desks and chairs, basically. Not all sorts of ancillary things. We've had people who've applied basically to kit out a whole community centre with bins, laminators, cupboards, all sorts of things. It can't pay for those, but it can pay for the primary kind of desks and chairs that you might need for people to use the computers. And again, it needs to be justified and proportionate to the number of computers you're getting. Because, if you apply to kit out an office, it often sticks out like a sore thumb. Obviously, if it's a new computer facility, you'll need those things. But if it's an existing one and you need it, just explain why in your application. You can't fund these things. Can't fund ongoing IT support contract costs. You can just do the initial setup. Can't fund capital building works. No sort of staff costs or organisational overheads. You can't pay for the activities that you deliver in your centre, whether it's IT related or not. Can't cover staff training or any sort of volunteer related costs. And also, we don't fund applications that are aimed at purely recreation. So we've had some applications where people have said, we want 5 gaming PCs for our youth club, the £2,000 each. Now, whilst totally see the need and the merit and how good it is for the kids who are using that centre, but it's just the steer we got is it's not about just recreation. So I wouldn't apply for that. If you're looking to do any sort of outreach stuff, which you might do on the call, it can't just be for outreach. One of the things we get measured on is a place, a postcode, a facility that has got improved digital connectivity. So if you are going to do outreach stuff, you do need to identify where it will be based and used the most. You can then do outreach stuff, which is fine, but we do need a postcode that we can hang it off, if you like. So here's the kind of the process and the timescales. It'll get launched on Monday. All the documents will be on our website. Any questions by 5 o'clock on Thursday, the 6th of June. And the deadline is Monday, the 17th of June at 5 o'clock. So there's a 4-week response window there. Following week, that week, the 17th, we will follow up, do all the due diligence, go back to any applicants we may need to clarify anything. And then next few weeks after that, we'll dish them out. We've got an assessment team who will assess them. So it's not just me sitting there thinking I like this or I like that. We've got people from your local CVS and each borough who are assessing them, and we allocate them to someone from the CVS and the borough that the application's from, and someone from another CVS and another borough, so they're independent. So we get a nice balance of someone who is likely to know the organisation, but balanced out with someone who doesn't know the organisation, so is completely independent. So we will let people know it will be week commencing the 22nd July, and then we'll get the grant agreements and pay people as soon as possible after that. But there's a number of things always that there's conditions of grant, and there's some pre-grant monitoring stuff we need, and we won't pay it till we've got that. We'll let you know when it's launched. Like I say, all the documents will be there. So there's an application form. There's a guidance document on how to complete your application, which, if you read it, kind of tells you blow by blow exactly kind of stuff to put in. There's an FAQs document. There's a spreadsheet that's got data on that ranks the different wards in each borough in terms of their digital exclusion score, and also deprivation in terms of the indices of multiple deprivation. So use it and look up where it is you're based, and if it's a particularly digitally excluded area or deprived area or both, well, say that in your application. If it happens not to be so deprived or so digitally excluded, well, you'll need to argue the case as to why it's needed. And I'll touch on that again in a minute. We'll also put the slides and the videos on. There's the email address to send your application to, with the supporting documents. I'll mention that in a minute. And also, if you've got any questions, email that address. So these are just some of the things we're going to go through in relation to the application form. So the documents we need along with your application form is a published set of accounts for your last financial year. There are some exemptions. If you don't have any yet, because you've only just been, in existence for 12 months or so, we'll ask you for some management accounts or something like that. And we also need your annual report, which often forms part of your accounts, but it might be a separate annual report. If you don't have one, we'll ask you to give us a summary of what you've actually done. You've got to send those in with your application form. So on the application form, the first section, A, is just kind of contact details and things. Then section B is just some information about your organisation. Little summary, how many staff and trustees or directors you'd have, all that kind of stuff, what your turnover is. And then we ask about certain things that you need to have in place if you're to be funded. Excuse me. So insurance-wise, obviously you need public liability, employees' liability, and content insurance, so that it covers the replacement value if anything happens to them. We don't need copies of policies or whatever. You just need to confirm on the form that you've got them in place. Or if you don't have certain things in place, there's a box to tick to say we haven't, but we will have before you fund us. Policies wise, we need to check you've got health and safety risk assessment policies, which you should have. It's a kind of a legal obligation. Internet security, data protection, safeguarding, and an environmental sustainability statement. Now, the two out of those that people tend not to have more than others um, sometimes are internet security. It's like a public access internet security policy, which lays out really what you do to keep people safe online, and equally what people can and can't do online. Kind of lays out the ground rules. We've got an example policy of that we can share with anyone who hasn't got one, because if you haven't had a public kind of access computer suite in the past, obviously you're not going to have that kind of policy in place, are you? Similarly, a lot of people tend not to have like this kind of environmental statement, although more people are these days. Really, it's we're funding people to get computers, and if you've already got old ones that you're going to have to get rid of to replace, obviously we need assurance they're not just going to get skipped and go to landfill. They need to be appropriately recycled. We've got a one-page policy statement, which is very simple and easy to adopt for your organisation um, if you need one. So the key to it is, though, it's not the piece of paper, it's that you do what it says on the piece of paper, isn't it? So you have to confirm you've got them, or you will have them in place before you get funded. Then section C then is really the section where, you're telling us all about it. You're telling us this is what we want to buy. This is how much it costs, like a breakdown in a table. There's a section where you need to tick to confirm that you've got 3 quotes where applicable. Or if you haven't got them at the time of submitting the application, confirm that you will have before you be funded. And then the next question after that, it's around fitness for purpose and value for money. So in terms of the fit for purpose bit, it says on the slides, doesn't it? People, purpose, and place. When you hopefully come to the technical tips briefing session next Tuesday, the guy who's doing it, he'll explain that to you. It's all about what kind of equipment are you getting and why. So thinking about who's going to be using it, have they got particular needs, or what are they going to be using it for? Where is it going to be used? And all of that will inform the kind of stuff that you buy and the way you set it up. So just tell us it. It's not like a trick question. It's in that section. You can say, look, we've considered this. We've taken some advice. We need this kind of stuff because it's going to be used by these kinds of people. So we need this. It could be that, I don't know, if you work with people that maybe they've got visual impairments, you might need a large keyboard or some particular software or whatever. So just explain that. And then also, in terms of value for money, just explain to us how you tried your best to get a good deal really, and value for money. Like I said before, we do look at costs in applications to make sure they're not eye-watering, if you like. But at the same time, it's not always the cheapest option, is not always the best. So consider the kind of the suitability and the spec and the durability of what you're going to buy. And the guy in the technical tip session, he goes through things like that and recommends. He'll say, look, if I was getting computers for like members of the public to use, I wouldn't get these kind of ones because they tend to break quicker. They're a nightmare to get replacement parts for. That's usually the cheaper and brands and models. And there's certain models where you'd say, do you know what? These are bulletproof. So definitely come to that technical tip session. You've got this map you can look at, which I'll just click on it now. If you want to have a look at what's in your area, you can click on this map that we've created, and we've got all of the ones we've funded in the first 3 rounds. So you might want to say, just zoom in wherever it is you are. So we can see here in Wavertree, we've got 2 very, very close together, Voice of Nations and think it's A to B over there. Yeah, they're like on Picton Road, I think. Um, but the point of this is you can see, and if there's nothing around where you're based, then you can use this to assert that in your application and say, we've looked at the map and there's really not a lot around there. But if you do use it, I would advise you to just look at these different toggles because these top ones, if you can see that, don't come on automatically the way this is set up. We've got a different version of this map that's online with the combined authority where people can go on and see where they can go to get online in their area. But what you might want to turn on is show where the libraries are and show where other voluntary sector organisations are who've got IT facilities. And you can see there's a lot who we haven't funded, but they're already there. Now, the ones that are on the publish map, these kind of ones actually say what they are, where they are, and when they're open. As we're going through and we know that our funded organisations are open and when they're open and all that kind of stuff, we fill in the detail on this map. But anyway, it's a useful little thing to have a look at and could help you kind of demonstrate the need in your application. That's just saying, look, places that stick out on the map where it doesn't look like there's a lot of provision that are digitally excluded. But like it says at the bottom, it doesn't mean we'll only fund things in those areas or in a massively digitally excluded area. You need to explain why there's the need. You might work with a particular client group who won't go to the local library or won't go to the local community centre because of whatever particular circumstances they have. You just need to explain that in your application. But you could look at the map and say, well, yeah, there's a library down the road and there's something else, but they're only open on a Tuesday morning and a Thursday afternoon. So kind of use it. That's what it's there for. There's also a spreadsheet, which, like I said, kind of ranks the wards in terms of its digital exclusion, um, where it is on the indices of multiple deprivation, if it's got poor broadband, if there's older people, because often older people are more digitally excluded. So again, have a look at it and use it to back up your application in terms of need. Like I said, if it doesn't back up your kind of assertion of the need because of the stats don't show it as being particularly digitally excluded or deprived, then you need to then explain why you need it. And we've funded organisations all over the place. But you need to tell us because we won't know otherwise. So again, in terms of identifying the need, as we said, look, you can use the map, you can use that spreadsheet, but also you need your own kind of local knowledge and the reasons why it's needed. And you need to explain that because we won't know. So if you're upgrading, a facility you've already got, unless you tell us, we will not know, why you need it. So it's not rocket science. If you've got old knackered computers, say so. Say we've got, 6 PCs and they're 10 years old and it's like watching paint dry. When we use them, it takes ages to turn them on. The internet's dead slow. Tell us, take a broadband speed test online and say, look, our broadband speed is 10 megabits per second, which is like painfully slow. Use that kind of simple evidence and explanation really to tell us why you need it. Similarly, in terms of if you're applying to increase capacity of an existing facility, again, we won't know unless you let us know why do you need more equipment. So what's very helpful in all of these three instances is feedback from your users. So you may already have some feedback from a survey or whatever where people have said, look, we want to be able to use the computers in here. Or the feedback from current users who say, do you know what? The internet's so slow, you can't get anything done. I'd come here more often if it was better. those kinds of things. And if you haven't got something, you've got time to get a quick straw poll amongst your, your service users. So that's usually good evidence to back up need. And obviously, if it's a new facility, again, why is the need there? We said about the data and the map, but also it's like, well, why do you need one? Because when you look at that map, there are a lot of these places around now. So, if there's 5 places within 10 minutes walk, we'll be looking at that and going, well, do we really need to fund another one? So you need to let us know why it's needed. In terms of the impact of the project, this is the longest, biggest word count in terms of the answering the questions, because it's all about the impact, isn't it? It's like, what's it going to do for you as an organization? What's the positive impact going to be? How's it going to impact on your service users? Who are they? How's it going to benefit them? There's things noted there that you can see obvious things that people get out of being able to get online. And what's the impact on the wider local community? So really use that section to sell it to us. Why? What's it going to be like? Is it, what? I think there's another question I'm probably jumping ahead. Is how many people do you think are going to use it? So if it's an existing facility, well, whether it is or it isn't, there's a question earlier on that says how many people use your computer facilities now. Obviously, if you've got one, it's none. But if you have, tell us how many. And then if you're looking to upgrade it or expand it, there's another question later on that say how many do you think are going to use it once you've set it up? And we kind of like marry these different questions together to get a good feel for, well, what's the impact going to be? Is it likely people are going to use it? But there's no hard and fast rule. We won't say, well, you've got to have at least 50 people a week using it. It's nothing like that. But we do kind of like triangulate and look at, well, they've asked for £10,000 for 12 computers, loads of kits, broadband, and they're telling us there's only going to be 5 people using it a week. So obviously, the first thing we do think is, well, there's going to be 5 people using it a week. Why do you need 12 computers? So make sure it all ties together. The next question is, how are we going to measure the impact? And I'll tell you in a moment things we need to know, but you will want to measure other things, I'm sure, in other ways, um, to show the impact of what you're doing. Certain things we need, and there's certain things you might want to do over and above. Just just tell us in that section. But as a minimum, at least say, well, we've looked at your guidance and we'll give you everything you need. At least it gives us kind of some reassurance that you've actually looked at the guidance and you know what you've got to do. We ask you how you're going to publicise it, especially if it's a new thing or it's an expanded sort of facility. Because if people don't know about it, they're not going to use it, are they? And don't just go, we're going to stick it on our socials. Great that you do, but you know, in isolation, that doesn't really just work on its own often. Particularly if you think about the irony of people are coming to use your computers because they haven't got their own or they can't get online. You know what I mean? They might not pick this kind of thing up on social media. So the final question is basically is when's it going to be open? Tell us, it's going to be open on a Monday or a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, this time to that time. Um, just tell us about it. If people are going to be limited on how long they can use it. Most people don't. Or if you're targeting a specific audience, just tell us who's using it. We've had ones who say, well, it's open Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, but on a Wednesday morning, it's a specific group for older people, or on a Thursday, after school and Friday, it's used for our youth club or whatever it is. So just let us know a bit about it, and then so we kind of look at all those things together and we assess the fitness for purpose and value for money. So have you shopped around? Have you had a good think about what it is you need to buy to set it up? Does this sound right? And then we look at the need. Why is it needed? If there doesn't seem to be a need for it or it's not well articulated, then why would we fund it? And what's the impact going to be? And then we kind of look at those 3 things together and the assessors score them individually, come together, We meet up, discuss any that we think need discussing. Some will be clear cut one way or the other, and then we put our recommendations to the steering group who make the final decision. So I said about the monitoring. There's a table which makes it look like a lot, but it's actually not really. So before we pay you, we need you to tell us how many people currently use your computer facility. It does ask you it in the application form, but we always ask people to just kind of reaffirm this prior to the grant, because sometimes people put numbers in the application that just don't look right. I don't know why, but there you go. We also need a few photos of the place before you get your new stuff in place. And if you're applying to get improved or a new broadband line, we need a screenshot of the broadband speed test of what it is before you get the upgrade or get the new line put in, because we ask it again afterwards. You say, and that's one of our targets is about improved broadband speed. So those three things we need before. Once you've set it up, we'll want some photos of the new or improved facility. We'll want a broadband speed test once you've got your new broadband or your improved broadband put in. There's some speed checkers you can use down there. And there is a funding requirement in terms of us claiming the outcomes that the any broadband that you buy has got to be over 30 megabits per second, which technical jargon, but basically you'll get that when you're looking into getting your broadband provider. And 30 megabits per second, by the way, is really slow. So the side of the funding rubric, don't get broadband if it's 30 megabits per second, because you might as well just get a Wi-Fi, a MiFi dongle, or tether it to your phone. Excuse me. We'll come out and see you and check out the place. Once you set it up, you've got to spend the money and get it set up within 3 months. It can't be dragging on for ages. We'll come out and see you, see how you're doing. Nice to meet people. Maybe see some people who are using the computers. It's nice, really, aside from all of the kind of like bean counting that you have to do. It's nice to come and see the real thing in action and the impact it's making. We do have to get evidence to spend. It's a condition of our grant agreement with the combined authority that obviously we need to check people spending the money on what they said they were going to spend it on, and we're not just dishing out grants that people are either spending on other things or not spending at all. So we will ask for a list of what you've bought and invoices and receipts. We're not asking for bank statements. We did in round one. It's a bit of a pain, but you'll keep them up. You'll have to have them and quotes, because we could get picked for an audit and they may say, I want to see this organisation, show me what they've done, what they've bought, show me that they paid for it. So we'll ask for the invoices, receipts in the list. Once you've bought your stuff, just keep hold of the other stuff that you need. Periodically, we may check that you are actually paying for your broadband, that you haven't just bailed on the contract and sitting on the money, but it's highly unlikely. And then once it's been open for 6 months or possibly before, we get in touch with you basically and say, give us a little impact report. And it's just a short document where you say what the impact is on you as an organisation, your service users and the wider community. You can make it as long or as short as you like within reason. And as part of that, you just need to confirm, right, well, now there's X number of people typically use our facilities a week. And then that's how we claim our outcomes, because we've got certain targets. We've got targets about improved broadband. We've got targets relating to increased use of facilities, things like that. And if you can get us some case studies, that'd be brilliant. Written ones, great. If you can get a little a film one or anything like that, they're always even better. That just says, look, we will do an evaluation. We'll be in touch with you about it. Please sort of work with us on it. It won't be onerous. A lot of the stuff will be the monitoring information you've provided us, but I know the combined authority are also going to pick our project as one to do as part of their evaluation. So evaluating me want to speak to you, or whatever, just to get a flavour of what it's done for you. But like you say, case studies are brilliant. There will be this final mop-up round. We're going to launch it mid-September. All the money will be paid before Christmas, but that's really going to have to be a condensed mop-up round because it needs to be spent. The things set up and the monitoring stuff required monitoring stuff back to us before the March 25 deadline. So basically, if you're really interested, don't wait till September. Do it now because we want to dish out as much of the money in this round as we can, and we wouldn't want people to miss out just because they were thinking, oh well, I'll wait till the next one. That's that workshop I've mentioned next Tuesday. There's the link. I would strongly suggest going to it because I've just told you today about what it's about and some advice on how to fill in the application form and things to think about. This is a cracking workshop. If you're not an IT expert and you haven't set up a computer suite before, this will really get you to think about it. And I guarantee there will be loads of things you wouldn't have thought of that will be mentioned at this workshop. So we'll send these slides out. Pat will send them out today to everyone who booked on. The link's there if you want to join on Tuesday, but if you can, just email Pat and let him know that you're going to come next Tuesday. So that's the presentation